Thank you, Mr. President. The White House Coronavirus Task Force met again today. And on behalf of the President of the United States, everyone on our team, I know state leaders, let me just say thank you, America. People across this country, businesses large and small, are responding to the threat of the coronavirus in ways that are deeply inspiring. People are acting on the President's 15 days to slow the spread, and it is making a material difference. Our experts standing beside us told us that if every American, regardless of whether you're in an area that's impacted by an outbreak of the coronavirus or not, if every American would embrace these guidelines, that we could significantly reduce the number of Americans that would contract the coronavirus and protect the most vulnerable. And as the President reflected earlier, tens of millions of Americans are doing just that, and we're grateful. The focus of our task force, of course, is to slow the spread, to promote mitigation strategies. Beyond that, though, the President has us focused on testing and on supplies, and making sure that those that are enduring the symptoms of the coronavirus and those who are ministering to them, our extraordinary healthcare workers, have the support that they need. In the category of supplies, you just heard Dr. Birx indicate that we've made great progress. We have done more tests in the last 8 days than were done in the previous 8 weeks, and it's because of the public-private partnership that the President forged with commercial labs. And I would encourage people around the country to remind your family members and friends, if you don't have symptoms, don't get a test. We want to make sure people who are having symptoms, who have a concern, have the ability to be tested and to have those tests processed. We're continuing to urge all county hospitals, all labs around the country to report to the CDC all the results of the test, as it'll give these experts around us the ability to continue to advise the President on best practices. As I mentioned, we all continue to follow the outbreak around the country and the test results, but as several have mentioned, we're particularly focused on New York. The reality is the New York metro area was 60% of the new cases in the country. And specifically, as a layperson, I can tell you that the infection rates are roughly 1 in 1,000 in the New York City metropolitan area, where they are 0.2% per thousand or 0.1% per thousand in places like Washington State. It is the reason why today the White House Coronavirus Task Force is calling on any American, first and foremost, if you're in the New York City metropolitan area or elsewhere, to take the guidelines that we issued and avoid non-essential travel. But for anyone in the New York metropolitan area who has traveled, our task force is encouraging you to monitor your temperature, be sensitive to symptoms, and we are asking anyone who has traveled out of the New York City metropolitan area to anywhere else in the country to self-isolate for 14 days. We have to deal with the New York City metropolitan area as a high-risk area. And for that reason, we're taking these steps and asking for the cooperation of the American people. Because of the spread in New York City, we will continue to surge resources. The President has described this. FEMA is coordinating with New York State for the arrival of the USS Comfort in just a matter of a few short weeks. Over the next 24 hours, more than 4,000 additional ventilators will be delivered to New York State as well. New York State has prioritized 3 alternative medical facilities, and at the President's direction, the Army Corps of Engineers is working on plans to build those facilities out. You've heard the President speak about the Javits Center, the addition of 1,000 beds, and we'll continue. I want the people of New York City and the greater New York City area to know that we're with you. We're going to continue to provide resources to support your state and local officials as they confront the spread of the coronavirus in that great city. On the subject of supplies, we had team meetings today at FEMA, which is working on identifying the critical personal protective equipment and ventilators At this point, FEMA informs us today that they are distributing 7.6 million N95 respirator masks, more than 14 million surgical masks, and FEMA has already shipped 73 pallets of personal protective equipment to New York, 36 pallets of personal protective equipment to the state of Washington. We'll be meeting again tonight. As you know, the President stood FEMA's National Response Center up, and they are in the lead for the approach to the coronavirus, which is locally executed, state managed, and federally supported. And we'll continue to surge those resources and make sure that they're available. One last word, if I may. The President reflected on the response businesses around the country have brought to this moment. It truly is extraordinary. The President did initiate the Defense Production Act last week, but as the President has reflected many times, we will use the Defense Production Act if we need it to mandate production of critical supplies. But so far, no one has said no. And in fact, we see industries stepping up. The President mentioned Ford Motor Company working with 3M and GE Health to expand production of medical supplies. We heard that McDonald's is now offering curbside delivery to truckers who are unable to use the drive-through to pick up a Big Mac. And I spoke today, and the President spoke last week with Tim Cook of Apple, and at this moment in time, Apple went to their storehouses and is donating 9 million N95 masks to healthcare facilities all across the country and to the national stockpile. There is a level of generosity that I know is inspiring to the President, and it's truly inspiring to all of us who are working on the White House Coronavirus Task Force. The President's made it clear that he hopes, in weeks, not months, to be able to open up the country. But let me make one last encouragement to every American. We will get to that day quicker if every American will put into practice the President's coronavirus guidelines for our nation. 15 days to slow the spread. If every American will do this, I have no doubt that we will slow the spread, we will protect our most vulnerable, and we will heal our land. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.